Hello, everybody. This is Dustin Puryear with Giant Rocket Ship. I am doing my regular office hours for Autotask. Actually, currently making sure I have everything shared properly. So, what I like to do here is, if anybody has an issue with audio and hearing me or video, let me know, just in case. So, again, Dustin Puryear, founder, Giant Rocket Ship, and doing our weekly or semi-weekly office hours. So today for Autotask, what I want to go over is the difference between roles and work types. I saw a couple of questions about this, and just a little forewarning, most of the time, the topics that we cover are by request. Sometimes I do a webcast dedicated to maybe something that's annoying or something that I've noticed about Autotask or some questions, and that's gonna be one of these. And I've noticed a couple of questions about work types and their configuration. I thought we'd carve out today to really go through roles and work types and how and when to use them. There's definitely a little bit of confusion out there about the difference between roles and work types. And in fact, a lot of Autotask shops don't even use work types. Now, if you're a one-man shop, maybe that makes sense. But in reality, work types can have a profound impact on how you bill and how much you can automate billing and reporting for your team. So again, what we're going to do is we're going to go through work types and roles in Autotask. So what I'm going to do here is we're in Autotask. You can see Rocket Ship here embedded. And let's go take a look at a ticket. This one looks good. All right, so let's just open this little card. This means you have to do it on site. I love that icon. All right, so what we're going to do here is let's bring up a ticket so we can kind of see what's going on in the configuration here, right? And so what we have here is our billing um, screen right here, and these are called insights. And so the work type is in fact set. Now, what you'll see is there's a difference between the work type and the role and the person. And that's because work types are not tied to people. Roles are tied to people. And it's important to understand that because roles typically define the baseline billing rate for one of your resources. And if you're an MSP and it's all you can eat or per user contract, I get it. You're not going to generally actually send an invoice to the customer for hours worked. But I will say that if you're an MSP and you're not tracking hours for your staff, maybe not down to the second, but if you're not tracking hours to your staff, that's a little mind-boggling, right? So if you're selling cars, how can you know your profitability if you don't know not just the number of cars, but the amount of labor for your mechanic, right? Even if that's not directly billed to the customer, tracking hours is essential in an MSP. If you want to fine tune things, it helps prevent you having a small customer consume all of your hours and at the expense of your large customers. So just a quick aside. So what I want to do here is we are going to kind of understand that difference. So again, the role here is tied to the resource, and a resource can have multiple roles, and that's important. And then we can have these work types, and we really want to think of work types as a way to tweak the billing, but it's not the underlying foundation of the billing. So I might have a role, and let's go take a look at some of our roles here. So I'm going to pop out a new screen. And this is our demo environment. So let's see what we have here. Roles. So you'll notice we have some baseline roles you're going to find very common. And generally, your roles are going to be tied to job titles, right? We have a project manager, a developer, a level 2 developer, right? Maybe a junior and a senior, our junior and our senior software support, etc. Service manager. And notice that these bill rates are tied to that. So when we look at roles, almost think of job titles. Now, the struggle is with roles, we don't know when to and not to bill that rate, right? And so you cannot easily control outside of like the hammer level, the contract, right? We can't easily control when this $150 is going to be billed. This is just telling Autotask, hey, look, we're going to bill for the project manager $150 an hour. Work types is where you can really tweak that. But first, let's go look at this role. And this does drive me crazy about Autotask. You never know when the edit is going to bring up a full edit screen, or you're just going to edit the name. That happens in a couple places. So let's take a look at this hourly bill rate. If you're in a jurisdiction where you have to pay taxes on service, you would use this. And this is also another important one, a block hour multiplier, right? So an hour consumed here, an hour consumed is 1.5 off of your block contracts, and then of course your resources. And so very little configuration that you can do here, but we have more options in our work types. So here we go, work types, and I have several here. A lot of them come with Autotask. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to look at our regular which one do we want to do? Support versus IT emergency. So you could use roles, for example, for on-site versus remote, but then you're just managing too many things, right? Too many variables. So let's go through work types and how we can use that to control billing, right? So for remote support, and I would argue honestly, I usually wouldn't break it out this granular, because then you're really forcing your technicians to make some calls that they shouldn't be making. And so let's go edit this. And notice our options here, right? First, we can tie it to the general ledger account. If you create those and then you map them, then what happens is those billing items will flow to the right account on your chart of accounts in QuickBooks. Now, what's nice here is notice this. If it's remote support after hours, you can tie it to your emergency rate. So right off the bat, work types let you align your billing with your business hours and your contracts much more easily. The other thing is notice that how we can adjust how our roll rates work. Right now, I've actually never seen this. People don't usually say plus $5. Maybe it happens if it's on-site versus remote, but I don't really see that too often. Maybe that's old school. But generally, what you will see is, let's say that we would say these two are actually very nice. Custom rate. So with the custom rate, let's say that it is a remote support, and in your contract, no matter what the roll rate is, you're telling them that you're only going to bill them $75 per hour in a time and materials contract, right? And so this is where you can configure that. Now, heads up, we can also configure it at the contract level, and I'm going to show you that. But notice here we can alter that. The other nice one is, and this is more for on-site, when we're doing on-site, if we have a fixed rate for our on-site, and notice this, they're billing at 1 1/4 of your roll rate when we go on site, a little bit of a penalty to the customer to not, to help reduce on sites. The other thing is, you have to be careful, but this is powerful, which is you can do a flat rate per time entry, right? So every time I do work on site, I'm going to bill you $150, right? Now, that's not super helpful if you have multiple time entries and it's for remote support, right? But another nice one here is going to be, and here we go, is never bill less than or never bill more than, right? And so we might want to say, look, our minimum billing block of time is we're never going to bill less than 1/4 of an hour if we do work for you, right? We're never going to do less than that. And so you can really tweak it, and that's nice. But let's get where it's really interesting. Let's go take a look at some contracts and how that works. And we're also going to be looking at ticket categories and where that really has a big impact on you. All right, so let's go look at a contract. There we go. Now, what's cool here is our rates, right? So what we can do here is we can say, hey, look, for our role, we can tweak the rate, right? But we can do other things as well, which is the exclusions. And this is where you start seeing where the real power of contracts along with work types really happens, right? So like, let's say this is a remote only support contract. And probably better to look at a recurring service contract. I think it's more relevant. So now with this, we would say, hey, look, this is our this is going to be our remote support, and by default, we are not going to bill you. I mean, rather, we are going to bill you hourly for IT on site. This is remote only. It's our silver package, and if we have to put boots on the ground, then we will bill you, and that's where this is done. Now, you might ask, well, why don't I just do that at the role level? Well, if you have a very large organization, it may make sense. If you're smaller, less than 20, 30 techs, it does not make sense to use roles for this. And so here's why. Let's say that you have a project manager and you want to use the roles to dictate when you do and do not bill the project manager. If you're going to use the roles, and let's say that you bill for on-site and you don't bill for your remote project management, just random example, now you need two roles. You need project manager on-site and project manager remote. And every time, like, how do you even manage that? Every time you bill a ticket, when you need to do it as an on-site, you need to change that role for that person to the project manager on-site. Because remember, roles are specific to the person, their titles, right? And and so what we want to use instead are the work types, because the work types let you flip on and off settings for the roles. And again, that's how you should look at it. A work type tweaks the role. So here we're showing how we're excluding that. I will tell you this is an underutilized feature of contracts and Autotask, which is the exclusion. Really what you want to do is you want to create an exclusion set. And you would say, like, you would create an exclusion set would be remote support contract on-site and then platinum. And then when you build a contract, you tie it to the exclusion set instead of doing it manually. Super powerful, makes it very easy. And another quick aside, maybe we'll address it in the future, is how to have work flow from a recurring contract and an exclusion contract. So here we might say, this is our recurring service, and then we want all the non-covered items to flow into the time and materials contract where we can tweak it more. So there you go. So that's how you can use it. Now, that's great at the contract level. Work types are also very powerful in terms of ensuring your technicians are billing in a way that you can easily report on that data and do something with it. The struggle with work types, and the reason that a lot of people don't use it, feels like you're having to micromanage all your tickets and your billing entries, right? Like you have to train your staff. Hey, don't forget this is on-site, but you just put remote support or you just put support, use on-site support, and they have a million options. Well, that's just because you haven't fully configured Autotask, right? So the other thing that we want to do with work types is we want to configure custom screens for our text, right? And so, like, let's say that we're doing a project. Let's just create one. Let's just say that we have a help desk support. And so we have something specific to help desk support. Now, what's nice here is this is going to let us really tweak how we want to use not just work types, but everything else. Let's pick a nice little, what is that, fuchsia? I think that's fuchsia. Okay, so we have this ticket type. And then the next thing that we want to do here is a default value for ticket type. Okay. And then let's go to details here. Now here's the big one. So we want to go find work type. Now let's say that for your help desk, you never want them to accidentally build projects, right? You don't want them to just lazily choose something, right? And so make it where that's not possible. Right? You only want help desk to be able to triage tickets, to do emergency support, to do on-site support, and also, again, I find all these variations are generally too confusing for text. You want to tweak that. And let's see here, remote support. And why I'm saying it's too confusing, let the contract decide what's billable versus not billable. I wouldn't have the technician picking and choosing all this. But look, we're not doing software support. And generally that'd be for maybe like a software company, or you might break that out if you're charging separately for line of business software. And so I think we have it all. Boom, good. Okay, so now whenever we are working on this ticket, let's see if it shows up, help desk support. Now it's just about impossible for our technician to accidentally use the wrong work type. And again, number one complaint I hear about work types is it's adding too many options. It's confusing. So now we've deconfused this. And generally, I would recommend you do speed codes. Let's not worry about it. And so that's ticket status. And well, I am pulling a Goober move. It is a time entry, right? This is for billing. And so if we scroll up again, speed codes. Notice here, on-site, remote, right? But what you need to be doing here for your billing, your work type is notice the limitations of what we can do here, right? And so let me refresh this up. It put itself. I must have a workflow doing that. And so let's see if we can beat the workflow because I don't feel like going to edit it. So we are going to restrict what we can do for our work types. And again, I think it beat me to it. But generally what you want to do, assuming that it's not slamming it back to another ticket category, is you would have restricted your text choices to only the things you want them to choose. And then when they build that, or when they select that, now you can control at the contract level. So the ticket category level, you're controlling what their options are. At the contract level, you're controlling how those work types are being billed, right? And at the system level, you're controlling which work types are available at all, right? And so now we've fully managed this ticket without having to worry about multiple roles or causing confusion with our staff. So I hope you found that helpful. We will convert this to a video and post this per usual. So Dustin Puryear, giant rocket ship, and this is my office hours for Autotask. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you.